Good morning. So this month I've been focusing on the differences between coaching and doing a personal breakthrough. And today I have an opportunity to bring that to light. Hi, I'm Dr. Karen Kramer, International Success Advocate and Life Coach for teenagers through adults, helping them live a life of their dreams. So here today I want to introduce my guest today, and I'm going to make sure that I talk about the details of her wonderful background. So she left a six-figure income after 11 years and a corporate marketing executive and event planner to follow her passion, her dream as an entrepreneur, and now planning personal development events for thought leaders, visionaries, and coaches that inspire positive change and encourage attendees to live a life of their purpose. And that is my guest today, the wonderful WENDI FREEMAN. So welcome, WENDI.
Hi, Karen.
Welcome, welcome. Okay, so great opportunity, as I mentioned, that there's a lot of questions I get when I get calls as, hey, you're a coach, but sometimes it's therapy, sometimes it's, even for me, there's two different modalities that I focus on, from coaching to what I call personal breakthrough sessions. And WENDI's been through much of that and really getting her journey going. So through our interview today, I thought you all would learn about how to take those techniques into reality, whether you're becoming an entrepreneur or not. So with this, WENDI, my first question is to think about, what was the turning point for you in making the decision from jumping from the corporate world to becoming an entrepreneur? Because I'm assuming you didn't just wake up one day and go, I think I'll become an entrepreneur.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. The thought had not even really crossed my mind. I realized that there was something missing in my life. You know, I've had a great life. I did everything that you're supposed to do: go to school, get a degree, good job, married, buy the house, the whole thing. I followed all the rules. And I realized that something was still missing,
Yes.
but I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
So I really started on a journey of, personal development, reading books, going to webinars, buying courses, and a friend introduced me to the idea of live development events. So that's really was my turning point, was once I was able to surround myself with an environment of like-minded people and recognize the community within those people and everything that they are doing in the life that they're living and the tools that
Yes.
they've implemented.
Yes.
That turning point was really that live event where I really saw a possibility.
Yes.
Where before I just felt stuck. I didn't know that there was anything out there.
Yes. And one thing I love about being around a community of like-minded individuals is, to your point, you really start to see what the possibilities are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, well, I may have had this inkling and idea about it, but oh my God, they're doing it. They're in that growth mind too. I know
Right.
for myself, as
Definitely.
we were talking about 10 years ago, so a lot of parallels. It was like, oh, this is a possibility. It's not just a dream.
Right, exactly.
I love it.
Yep.
Now, working with you, here in our backyard, we have multiple different things, from dogs to pools to bugs. So bear with us as we go through this interview, swatting at various different things. I love it. So here, there was as you and I were working, so as part of this journey, there has been, you and I have known each other for about 6 months, 7 months now?
7 months, yeah.
Okay. So I got to know you as you were already on the path to making this decision, but there was a certain emotion that was coming up for you as you were on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want to talk about that emotion and recognizing, as we're starting to get into some of the techniques here, there was one that I helped you overcome. You want to talk about that?
Fear.
Yeah.
100% fear. The fear of change, the fear of leaving the safety and security of a paycheck. I'm a
Yes.
single mom, so there was
Yeah.
a lot of fear around that. And just fear of the unknown. Once I realized that this was the path I wanted to take, I've never owned a business. I don't know business things. I just know what my specialty is and what my passion is. So being able to get to a point where the fear doesn't go away, but being at a point where I can leverage that fear
Yes.
and use it to
Motivation.
move forward, use that to
Yeah.
move forward instead of holding me back.
Yes, yes. So yes, and I recognize that was one of the things. We got to the point where you're like, you just got to do something with this fear.
Yes.
When I was making the jump from the corporate world to entrepreneur, I had this image that came to mind of I even with my clients talking a lot in images. So this frog that had been on this very solid big lily pad, and it was comfortable. For me, it was 16 and a half years in the corporate world, and I was comfortable. And the whole idea about jumping from this very comfortable, solid lily pad to something that was smaller, an idea that was out there, didn't know if it was stable. And again, dealing with, you mentioned single mom. I too was dealing with that. A single mom, finances, what does all this mean? Think those thoughts went through my head as well. So that fear is real, that's out there. And to Wendy's point, can also be a great motivator, because if it doesn't kick you in the butt, I can't remember the quote. If it's not if it doesn't scare you enough, it's not
big enough, or
yeah,
you're not something
along those lines.
If your goals don't scare you, they're not big enough, or something like that.
Exactly. So yes, is getting into really setting really challenging, big, scary goals, and the fear that comes along with it, that can be a great motivator, and also recognizing when it may hold us back. So with that, Wendy, we actually did do a technique. So recognizing there's various different coaches that you have, but that was really one where I started to work with you. So what was it that I did to help you overcome fear?
So Karen used a technique called timeline therapy, and I will let her explain the details around that. But basically, I think it took us maybe 35, 45 minutes, and she walked me through this activity where I was able to look over my life and recognize other situations that don't even relate to this, but where fear was the common factor. So being able to go back and look at different situations in my life where fear held me back, or stopped me in my tracks, or prevented me from doing something that I wanted to do. And rather than, like, I didn't get specific and tell Karen, well, there was this time that this happened, and there was this time that this happened, but it was more working through what could I learn from those situations.
Yes.
And it was really that activity that, one, working through it, I realized that those were things that kind of, they bubbled up every now and again, even though I didn't realize that they were. But it's like the snowball effect. That fear was there, and I never really dealt with it. So next time fear comes, that snowball was bigger and bigger. And then this one being like one of the biggest, scariest things I've ever done in my life, it just magnified the size of that fear, because all that other fear was still like bottled up. So going through and learning what I could learn from those fearful experiences, how I could apply that in the future, really helped me harness in and focus on the right things versus just those negative emotions.
Yes, and I love it. And even as you're talking about, they don't completely go away. Okay. So when fear came up, did it have the same emotional charge as it did a couple months ago?
Initially, yes. But now, as an entrepreneur, there's something scary every day. I mean, every single day, there's something that is scary. But now I'm able to, one, look back and recognize how in this situation, I channeled that fear. I turned that fear into passion. I used that fear as the fire that like kept me going. And so now I have such a stronger confidence and belief in myself and knowing what I'm capable of, that now I'm able to take that same, when that fear comes up, I remind myself where I was a couple months ago, what I've overcome, and I use that. So it's like fear, like I said, it doesn't go away, and it's a healthy,
channel it differently.
It's a healthy human emotion.
Yes.
As long as it doesn't stop you in your tracks. I think Richard Branson actually said that, that as long as it doesn't stop you from doing the things that you're meant to do, then it's a good emotion.
Yes.
It's using it
good.
For good.
Yeah, so one of the techniques that Wendy's talking about, timeline therapy, is a way to release negative emotions, and fear is one of the 5 major negative emotions that it focuses on. So some of the things she's talking about is, yes, once you go back in this process and are able to take away the learnings from it, then it reduces and takes away the emotional charge. And in other words, coming in here and recognizing fear is a part of our life. It doesn't just desensitize you that all of a sudden fear or any other of the negative emotions just completely go away and you're a zombie and you never have any more sadness, fear, guilt. any of that.
We're still human.
We're still human, but we're not emotionally charged by it. We're not like stricken like, oh my God, there's fear, there's sadness, there's hurt, there's anger. All of those are part of the natural human nature, but recognizing that we're channeling it in a different way. And for even Wendy to say, which is, you talk about confidence, it was courage and confidence.
It was the confidence that gave me the courage.
Yeah, to make that leap. For me, it was that literally jumping from one lily pad to another, and for you, it's like, holy crap, you can use.
Yeah. Oh my, yeah, holy crap. I felt like I was like standing on this cliff looking down, but I'd never been so sure of anything. Like I knew this was the right thing for me to do, that this was what I had been missing, you know. But yeah, like the courage to do that. But then once it was done, it was just, now I have more courage than I had even then. So it was using that to build that courage up.
And building the wins. So it's another thing about coaching too, is building the wins, even though they're small wins. I mean, it is challenging for some to go from the cushy job of the corporate world, 14 and a half, 16 and a half, 11 years, to make that leap on your own with all those that are out there. And so part of building up small wins to get there versus saying, hey, Wendy, you know, how about just like, you know, turn in your job interview, your resignation tomorrow.
Right.
Would that be really good for you?
No.
So there was a plan that you had in there.
Absolutely.
Okay. And actually we'll get back to talking about that plan when we talk about coaching. So kind of seeding that. But before we jump into that, which gets on the coaching end of it, there's actually, I'm only one of two coaches that have worked with what we call the personal breakthrough. So we've talked a bit about timeline therapy and other things. So we're going to stay in that realm before we start talking about coaching. So I kind of seeded that already. But I'm not the only one that you've worked with. So I want to do a plug for the other one that you worked with in regards to personal breakthrough sessions and how we are different. So that's important too. Okay,
so my other coach is Erin Morrison with Wildfire Dynamics. I know you've gone into Karen and all of her certifications and all the things, her background, and Erin is certified in many of the same ways that Karen is.
Yeah, master certified.
What I have experienced with both of them is that, first of all, you can never have too much support. There's no such thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, that the more support, the better, right?
Yes.
You can do it alone, but why would you?
Yeah.
And how much quicker when you have resources and advocates that believe in you and are helping you to achieve your dreams. So what I love about working with Karen and Erin separately is just their style, you know? You have to have rapport. If you're not in rapport with your coach, there's no purpose. There's absolutely no purpose. And so with Karen, I get that feminine energy, that compassion, that, you know, the mom things that come in, her ability to relate to that. Like she said, there's a lot of parallels in our backgrounds. So we really recognize that, you know, corporate career to entrepreneurship. So having that has really made a huge difference. And, you know, and then you add in a male coach and you get that masculine energy. A little bit more of that, you know, tough love, as they would say, a little bit more direct, more pointed. But for me specifically, I need both of that. I need the sweet and the salty, I'll say.
Yes. That's a good way to describe it.
It's sweet and salty because it's not tough love. It's sometimes you just need somebody to be real with you and not sugarcoat it. So I get Karen, who sometimes, don't get me wrong, she can give it to you. She points her finger at me a lot.
So Wendy.
Yeah. So I'm used to that, but it's the you know, the yin and the yang, that the two combined together, and I have like the best coaching team that I'll go head to head with anybody else who thinks they have better coaches than I do.
I love it. I love it. And Amy, I see your question too, so we're going to get back again to what Wendy does. So I want to capitalize on this question too, around the value of recognizing that different coaches bring in different styles. So one thing that I do when I have somebody call me, I give a free 20-minute phone consultation, and part of that call is teasing out, is this therapy, is this coaching, is this personal breakthrough? So that's why we're doing this call too. We're getting into more about talking about the differences between coaching and personal breakthrough. Yes, they could be combined, but they're also two different techniques. But teasing that out, but also I get people who call me, whether it's parents for teens or the adults, and really building the rapport and really finding out what they want. So for me, as Wendy has described, I can be very pointed. And also I can be very sweet. So it's a matter of working with that client and also recognizing that I may not be the best coach for an individual. So part of that is I'm very upfront. If I don't think I'm going to be the right coach for that person, then I will let them know, and I will also find other resources for them. And also recognizing that if I love graduating my clients, so whether it is I've taken them to where they want to be right now in their life, and another coach is going to take them further on that, or I've taken them to where they want to be, and me being straightforward is only getting them so far, and they could really use somebody who's a harder hitter, like Erin Morrison is, then that's a great transition in how to work with different kind of clients, or even as an individual yourself, recognizing. I even talked to somebody a month ago who said, I've been working with a coach for 2 years, and I'm not quite sure. It's kind of like breaking up with your coach. And I said, why? I love graduating. That's what I call it. I love graduating my clients because I don't want them to hang around forever. If they're hanging around forever, that means I'm not doing my job. I'm not doing my job. So with that, we're going to do a little transition with Amy's question here and tell a little bit more about your business. Tell a little bit about your business.
So my business is Be Bright Events.
Yes.
We alluded to the beginning where my story changed, my turning point, and that was I was at a live personal development event. So my entire career has been in corporate marketing and event planning, and I knew that something was missing from my life, and that's where I kind of realized how it was the community was how I was going to make that change. I didn't realize that moving into entrepreneurship was what that change was going to be. So it was that first event where I realized that it was the community of how. It was the second event where that moment went off, and it was like, I want to plan events just like this.
Yes.
I want to create that space for these thought leaders and, personal development coaches and, authors and people that have such an impactful message to share that is making such a difference in other people's lives, that is helping, all of their clients, attendees, live a life of purpose. So I just switched. I really just took exactly what I've been doing my entire life, but instead of doing it for the corporate world, now I'm doing it for people that are making a drastic impact in the way that everybody else lives their lives.
Yes. And it's just been so fun seeing you over the last 6 months or so, again, since I've known you, go through a lot of this transition from, okay, I want to make a shift. Event planning was your background to make that shift, and even turning. You haven't mentioned yet who turned into your first client.
No. So when I did finally face my fear, and we'll get into a little bit more of how I came to make this decision, but I was in the middle of planning a huge event for my corporate employer. And with that resignation, there was a lot of guilt that went into that, leaving them in the middle of, this huge event that I was heading up. And so along with my resignation, I delivered a proposal for me to finish out planning their conference. So with my resignation, not only did I gain the freedom and, living my life, fulfilling my purpose, but I also was able to turn my employer into my very first client.
Yes. Yeah, making that transition, which is awesome, So I actually wanted to talk more about the personal breakthrough techniques, but I think this is a good transition to talk more about coaching, because that really helped with that transition you're just talking about.
Okay.
So let's talk more about coaching.
Okay.
And from you, excuse me, still working on overcoming a cold. How would you describe, just briefly, between personal breakthrough and coaching, and talk a bit about your coach?
Okay, so where I have Karen and Aaron, they don't even have a celebrity name. It'd be Karen or Aaron, either way. They really helped me to deal with a lot of my personal emotions, my fear, the guilt, the scarcity mentality, shifting my mindset into a place of, hey, Katie, switching my mindset into a place of abundance versus scarcity.
Yes.
There are individual techniques, but as a whole, I really gained the ability to shift my mindset. I learned to focus on the things that I want instead of the things that I don't want.
Yes.
I learned that there are things in life, well, we all know there are things in life you don't have control over, but I learned that when I focus on those, you go down in that hole.
Yeah.
So they gave me the tools to really shift my mindset to get to this place where I was ready to make the change. Although, like I said, not having a strong business background on back-end business and corporate filings and taxes and I mean, I don't know that stuff. I realized that there is no better investment in yourself, or there is no better investment than the one you make in yourself. So I took out a loan. Despite all of my limiting money beliefs, I recognized the importance of it, and I hired a coach. So in this case, it's more of a business coach. Still, a lot of the mindset has the same similar background as Karen and Aaron do. Still in that space of abundance versus scarcity and, you know, mindset and all of that, but also more of the strategic direction, long-term vision versus focusing on me in the now and what I need now.
Yes.
So his name is Casey Thornton, and he is with Life on Fire. So now you can add him to my best coaches statement I made. And what Casey, you know, I have weekly calls with Casey. And the thing that I love about that is that Casey holds me accountable. I mean, I know that I have a call with Casey in like an hour and a half, and I know that he's going to say to me, what did you do this past week? What are we celebrating? To Karen's point of celebrating the small wins. We start every call that way, which they're the little things you don't even realize, like what you're celebrating. So we start our calls with, what are you celebrating? And then we move into, you know, how he can help me looking at long-term strategy, vision. Where do I want to take my business? What are the little steps to get there? Starting real small to get to, you know, goals are big, goals are huge, and your goals are constantly shifting and changing, and they should never stay the same. And once you hit a goal, there's more. So it's more about those stepping stones, how to achieve those, and what do I need to do, and what kind of person do I need to be able to achieve those goals? Yes,
definitely. I love that. So, and since Katie Lasky's on, Katie Lasky was one of my coaches. Hey, Katie.
Hey, Katie.
Okay, so here I'm going to talk a little bit. We're going to go back to talking about some personal breakthrough, but versus coaching. But I wanted to bring that forward too, and a way of being. I love it, Katie. Yes. Okay, so here, it's what WENDI was talking about was she had a lot of the love you too, Katie. For going through personal breakthrough. So you heard from WENDI that there was a lot of personal breakthrough type work that she went through before she engaged in coaching, and still has done some personal breakthrough. And again, we'll get back to talking about the differences. Coaching just in general being more week by week ongoing strategy, focusing on the future. And personal breakthrough is recognizing too that if there is something that's holding you back, sometimes it's emotion, as WENDI was talking about, fear is clearing out some of that. I like to talk about the analogy of even having a bowl, that you have a bowl, it could be your head, that just has a lot of stuff in it. You know, it could be your limiting decisions. We're going to get it and talk about that. Limiting decisions, things that are holding you back are sitting in this bowl. And when you want to start something new, you have to clean out the bowl, you know, before you pile on new things. So the idea of clearing out the bowl, clearing out those things that don't serve you out of that bowl, and then starting to insert things that do serve you in that bowl. So you heard from WENDI starting from doing some of the personal breakthrough work before starting with coaching, and I'm going to do a quick plug here around a client that I had this year where we actually started with coaching because he came to me and he said, I want to get back into the career, the work environment, and he had been out for 2.5, well, at that point, 2 years. Mom had passed away, and as we started focusing on strategy and focusing forward, there were some things that were holding him back. So after about 3 months, and we realized he was taking 2 steps forwards, 1 step back, 2 steps forwards, 1 step back. He was inching forward, but he wasn't making the progress. We decided to do a full personal breakthrough session with him, part of which, and we're going to start getting into talking more about the personal breakthrough techniques and how they helped you. When I started doing some of that with him, leaps and bounds. So within a month, he made so much more progress than he did in the 3 months prior to that. So that was getting into recognizing you can combine both the personal breakthrough and the coaching, and it can come either at the beginning or at the end as part of this. So I just wanted to set that up, that there you can combine both. WENDI combined both, which is why we're talking about it today, because she's had that experience on both ends. So that's my back end to talk about some of the techniques, the modalities with a personal breakthrough session. We talked a bit about timeline therapy. So I do want to mention, and Wendy's brought this in, we talked about fear. I mentioned that with timeline therapy, there are 5 major negative emotions. There are 2 others, shame and anxiety, that can be associated with that. And really, when doing what we call a personal history and intake session with a client, we're really trying to get to what's the root of it. So for my client who came to me about career, when we really dived down into a personal breakthrough session, excuse me, it was around people pleasing. He came to me talking about career, but once we were able to clear out this whole need for people pleasing, we found that that was something that impacted him not only on his career, but unresolved issues with the passing of his mom, his relationships with his siblings, and even getting back into the dating world again. So it covered so many things. So when we start clearing out that bowl, you may be focusing on one area, but it clears out others. So with timeline therapy, the American Medical Association says there is between 60 to 80 hours with a therapist, 60 to 80 hours with a therapist to relieve one negative emotion. You heard Wendy talk about fear. Imagine going back 60 to 80 hours and the cost associated with that.
And we did it in 45 minutes.
That's it.
45
you can do it in
minutes.
45 minutes or even less. So think about that. The time it takes and the money.
Can I pipe in here for a
second?
second?
Yeah, please do.
So I am one of those people. I didn't know about coaches. I didn't know it was a thing. So I've been in therapy my whole life, essentially. And what I realized, and this is not to, different strokes for different folks, and this is not to put down therapists by any means, because I have received a lot of value from my therapists throughout the years. But what I've received now, being able to be on both sides of it, is that the things working through my fear in a 45-minute period versus months and weeks and thousands. I mean, if I add up all of the money that I have spent over all of the years of therapy, and add to that not just the money, the time, because time is money, especially now as an entrepreneur. I don't have time to go sit in somebody's office for an hour every week.
The drive there and from.
But at the same time, you're having to relive every single instance, the details, to share with your therapist what it was. So yes, this happened. Here's the play-by-play of what happened, so that they can help you break that down and process it. Whereas here, it's more about what is the terms that you use? The context, not the content.
Yes.
Is that what you say? So I don't need to relive that and put my plate. What am I doing? I'm focusing on the things I don't want. I'm focusing on the negative instead of the positive. The positive being, what can I learn from this negative experience? So, at first we're working through my limiting money beliefs. Clearly doing well, since I borrowed money to hire coaches, obviously.
Yes.
But when I sit there and really look at it, put it on paper, hours, time, money, I mean, who doesn't want to? How could I not spend that money to do that to my life? Where, I might be here in the same place, but it could be 5 years from now. It could be 10 years from now. Or with the wrong people, it might never happen.
Yes.
So it's really just that acknowledgement that the investment in myself not only has gotten me where I am, has gotten me here quicker, but also has gotten me here with a lot less pain and a lot less tears.
Oh yeah. And I've seen that too.
I cry. I'm very emotional.
Yes.
It's good. You got to release the emotions.
We do. We're so much alike in that end of it. I love it. And a great way to talk about the differences between therapy and personal breakthrough sessions. I've had people who call me and say, well, isn't that therapy? And yes, personal breakthrough sessions in many ways can feel like therapy, but to the point that Wendy just made, you don't have to relive it again. That's the big difference between therapy and a personal breakthrough session. You don't have to relive the trauma and the issues from the past. It's really releasing it.
Well, and when you think about that, and I had never put this together until this is going to be the first time you've actually heard me say this.
Okay.
It's original content now.
Yeah, I love it.
So, by not giving you all of the details of the different incidents, you're able to take your training and apply it based on training, not, well, I had a client that this happened and this seemed to work. You're taking the principles of what you actually learned and applying it to the situation, not the incidents. Or, does that make sense? Like, you know, I feel like it's natural to compare and, you know, well, this worked for this person and this worked for this person, but no two people are alike. And no situations, even if they're the exact same root issue, are the same.
Correct.
But for Karen to be able to look and say, okay, this fear, that's it. That's all she needed to know. If I choose to share, and in some cases I do because I'm a talker, you haven't figured that out yet. I don't even know how long we've been sitting here talking. I do have a coaching call. Casey, I commit to being on time for a coaching call. But, you know, being able to I lost where I was going with that. Oh, that she's not comparing me to other people. She's saying, fear, okay, this is what I've learned about how to best help, how to best, you know, work with you to work through your fear versus applying things that may have or may have not worked for other people.
Yes, yeah. So as a coach, and hopefully any coach is going to focus on where that person is at that point in time. Each person's unique and there's some similarities. And there's underlying that with a therapist, it's, if I'm a therapist, I need to know, you know, what are you coming in for? What's the trauma? You know, is it, for example, PTSD over a previous issue that's going on? With personal breakthrough session, I don't need to know what the issue is. In fact, during the process, to Wendy's point, when I didn't know all the things that she was going through. As part of the process, it's leading her through to explore what those events were that were in her life, and all she's sharing with me are what are the learnings that are coming out of that. And again, whether we talk about being a talker, whether she wants to afterwards, hey Karen, I just went back to this really cool event and here's what's happened. I get that time to time with my clients, but it's not necessarily where they need to go. I love it. Now there is a comment that's coming in, so bear with me because I didn't see all of it. I'm so happy to honor both of you. Therapy, yes. Perfect match for individuals. Thank you, Katie. Taking a stand to help guide clients. Yes, exactly what you need and deserve in the process of healing, growth, and transformation.
Yes.
Excellent. So, Katie, that means a lot too, because you too are a coach. I mentioned that you were my coach last year as well as Casey, the one that's coaching Wendy right now. And also, Katie, you are also certified in various different modalities, which includes neurolinguistics programming, timeline therapy, and hypnotherapy as well. So,
and part of that, just to show, I keep bringing it back to community.
Yes.
How it's all interrelated. Yes. And now I formed a relationship with Katie. So like I talk to Katie now, and it's just that, you know, when you have, I don't remember who says it, but it's, you know, the people that you surround yourself, it's who, it constantly just reminds you who you want to be, how you want to live. And when you're surrounding yourself with positive, optimistic, abundant people that are pursuing their passion, it, you know, you support each other in doing that.
Yes.
And that was the piece for me that was missing. It was that community, not knowing there are other people out there that are doing, you know, the things that I want to do, but it was the community that showed me the possibility that I too can do it. Yes.
And there's a, I love friends. Thank you, Katie. Who else will show up at your house in a unicorn outfit? That will be Katie Lasky. And Alex, I know, yeah.
Hey,
and,
Alex.
And Alex, you're part of this too, recognizing that, you know, you surround yourself. You've been to some of these events. Love it. You've been to some of these events that we're talking about as well, is really when you are stuck. I'll use that word. When you are stuck in your life, whether you are stuck in a corporate job, whether you are stuck in a relationship, stuck in health issues that are going on, whether you're stuck where you are in life, you're frustrated, you're lost, or you're alone, don't do it alone. We've talked about therapists, coaching, personal breakthrough sessions, but get in an environment of like-minded, growth-minded individuals.
Yes.
There, again, we're thinking about quotes, and I'm not so good, you know, thinking about, you know, if you look around at your two best friends, you know, who are you, kind of like the equal idea about being in the intellectual level of those around you. You know, if you want to elevate yourself, be around people who are going to continue to elevate you. Okay, so just putting that out there. Christmas tree outfit. Yes, Alex, you showed up at your Christmas tree. She's awesome. Christmas tree outfit. I'm going back. Surround yourself. Yes, Katie, kind of looking at yours. It's bouncing around here. So surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with, sorry about my finger, positive people who are going to challenge you to make yourself better. Yes, yes, yes. Surround yourself with really good people. I think that's an important thing. Because, sorry for my finger, because the people you surround yourself with, thank you, Wendy, are a reflection of you. Exactly. Thank you. I knew you'd bring out the quotes because I'm not good at quotes. I'm good at stumbling around.
That's what happens when you read the personal development books. Is like you're reading all these concepts over and over by all of these brilliant people, but then it's just. But at the end of the day, as long as you remember the concept of what they're saying.
And then lean on good people as part of that community who will help you. I'm not quite sure how I can get at that, but I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah, I'm not
okay, so with that, yes, talking about community, talking about how do we branch off on all this, therapy versus coaching, community, etc., like-minded individuals. Oh, here, so taking a quick shift, but here's what I was thinking when we're talking about personal breakthrough sessions. And your business. There's a technique we use to come up with your business name.
So Karen and I talking. So for me, the word be is very important. I actually have it tattooed on my wrist. And this is a constant reminder for me to be who I need to be at any given moment. Be brave. Be courageous, be grateful, be, calm, be present, be, whatever it is at whatever time. My mind moves 100 million miles a minute. So this is my constant reminder. So I knew that I wanted the word be to be in my company name. And so I went on for probably weeks. I had pages, I think it was maybe like 400 or so, adjectives or verbs or nouns or 400
I got to see
words.
Some of those, yes.
And it was ridiculous. And honestly, it was stopping me, because I felt that I could not move on with starting my business until I had a name. Now let me just tell anybody who wants to start a business, that is not true. There's so much you can do without having a name. But I recognized that was the story that I kept telling myself. So Erin, my other coach, walked me through a hypnotherapy session. So this was not, sit on the stage, snap your fingers, go limp. It was none of that. He walked me through a visualization exercise. And I'll even add that this was over a video chat that this happened.
Okay.
Because this was when you both were at MasterPrac.
Oh, okay.
So this is how powerful this technique was, that it worked over a video chat. Walked me through an activity where ultimately I don't want to give it away because I don't know if this is like a technique that you use with multiple people or if this was just something he came up with. I don't know. But long story short, there was a blackboard involved in this process and me seeing myself writing a bunch of different things and erasing things. And over time, the word that came up for me was the word bright. Be bright. And when he brought me out of my trance, is that what you call it?
Light trance, yeah.
Very light trance. When he brought me out of that, he was like, so what did you see? And I was like, bright. And shocker, tears in my eyes. And it was like, that's it. I mean, if you're not getting this through the camera, I'm a bright, bubbly person. And it conveyed everything that I wanted it to convey. You can take it in a million different ways. Yeah. But the funny thing was that the word bright, and this was, I was on a trip with my friend Tara, and she was like, oh my God, you are going through all of these things. It's just going to come to you. You're trying too hard. Hard. And, the words that I had, there were lots of good options. Excuse me. But it was being able to get out of my head and into my heart through this technique that tapped into my unconscious mind, is how they refer to it in neurolinguistic programming, that brought that to light. And the funny thing is, out of 400 words, and I was like thesaurus, whatever, bright was not one of them. So that's just another technique, and that's kind of, surface level, but I can definitely see how that could be applied in other ways where there is something that is just kind of stopping you dead in your tracks, and you're not in a place to let go of, your brain is what's stopping you.
Yes.
So
Yes, I love it. And actually, we talked briefly about it this morning as the techniques. And what you just reminded me of is, so my business name is FYP Life Coaching, and I use the acronyms because it's actually FYP stands for Finding Your Pearls. And it's for the analogy, so if an irritant gets into the oyster and it coats it and creates a beautiful pearl. So the idea that there are pearls of wisdom inside of us from challenges that we've gone through. But that actually, I came up with that name through a hypnotherapy type experience too, and it just clicked on me as you were saying that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes.
So let's do a quick plug again for Natanya. You just
Natanya!
joined us. Yay! So let's do a quick plug with Be Bright and your business.
Okay.
Talk about how your business name now goes back to your business.
How my business name goes back to my business.
And what you do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry,
right.
I didn't know.
So, you know, like I mentioned, my business is all about creating the events that are inspiring people to change their lives. People that are in this growth mindset, people who want to be in that growth mindset. People, where I started, I didn't know what I wanted. I just knew I needed something. I was grasping at straws. A friend invited me to attend an event. I went and I was like, holy bananas. And so, you know, Be Bright, you can tie that into, you know, be inspired, be purposeful, be in the moment. I think I'm kind of, it's going to be like the seminar we were at yesterday. Wait, what was I talking about? What did I
know.
Where
What
did
was
I
my
go? What was the question? How it ties into, but just people being the best versions of themselves, living that life of brightness, it all comes back to being. And that's one of the things that, you know, all of these personal development and coaches and another thing that actually prompted me to get the tattoo, because I'd wanted it for a really long time, but learning the concept of be, do, have.
Yes.
That you have to be the person you need to be in order to do the things you want to do so that you have the things you want. And that's a whole other, I'll let you do that in a whole other thing, but it kind of ties into the events that I plan, install that in people so they can learn who they need to be, so they can live their best life.
Excellent. I love that. And talking about bright, I am going to bring WENDI into the light.
Oh,
so
my
we're going to shadow. So great transition here, talking about Be Bright. So we're going to move over just a bit. Sorry, Panda. Yes, so you're a little brighter.
There we go.
So we can see you. I love it. So making that transition. Okay. Working with outside light, birds, dogs, bugs. So thank you for being with us in our adventure today. So hypnotherapy, that was an example of one of the modalities you can use with doing personal breakthrough sessions. And hypnotherapy is, as WENDI mentioned, just a light trance. And there's various different ways that you can do. So the whole idea of a blackboard, I think, is amazing. Hypnotherapy is really tapping into the unconscious mind, which has so many answers. So you heard me talk about finding your pearls. I always believe, and this is part of personal breakthroughs too, that the answers to your problems, answers to the challenges and struggles that you have are already within you. Are already within you. So that goes back to finding your pearls, knowing they're already within you, whether they come from struggles or not. And hypnotherapy, with going with the same thing with timeline therapy, is doing a light trance to really tap into the unconscious mind that knows the answers.
And that's, I will say, that's one more difference, like huge difference that I've noticed between coaching and therapy, is the therapist kind of tells you what you need to do to overcome the things, whereas all three of my coaches ask me questions, because it's true. I have the answers, and there's not, all three of you have heard me been like, why do you ask such hard questions?
What's the purpose?
What's the purpose? And I'm like, I don't
know.
I'm like,
what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?
But hey, sometimes it's just people shouting in your face, what do you want? You'll get to the root of it. It like, that's another technique they use, but it works. Well, anyway, but asking the question. So then I also feel that the answer that I come up with, I'm confident in it. It's not like, well, my therapist told me that I'm supposed to do blah, 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 versus I realized this is what I need to do to achieve whatever it may be.
Yes. And even coming back to talking about that, my therapist said, so two things. One is the difference between therapists and coaching, whether timeline therapy or personal breakthrough sessions or not. In therapy, the therapist is the expert. With coaching, you as the individual are the expert, just for what we're saying. The idea about what are the answers within you that are true to you, and neuro-linguistics programming. So when I say personal breakthrough, if we say neuro-linguistics programming, NLP, it all falls under this timeline therapy, hypnotherapy. Neuro-linguistics programming is getting into the neurology, what's within you, linguistics, thinking about how you speak about it, programming. What is the programming that we have had, which can go as far back as an imprint period, when our unconscious mind was so open, it was a sponge, and it took in everything as reality from 0 to 7. And also it can go even further back than that. I'm not going to go into that now, but the idea about programming that we have and finding out what are those things that are helping us or hindering us. So when Wendy was saying, when the therapist says I should do this starts to get into, well, I should do. Well, think about some of the things that you had when you were younger that were programmed, whether it was formally programmed by parents saying you should do this, or a teacher say you should just do this, or you just experienced this as something you got rewarded for or punished for. But today in your life, that's your programming. But today in your life, is it serving you? It may have served you in the past. It may not serve you now. And that's where a personal breakthrough session can be so valuable.
Absolutely.
So valuable.
So nobody wants to live a life shutting all over themselves.
Nope. Not fun. And I love using that term. Wendy, are you shitting all over yourself? Just create a button. So in there, we talked about a couple of modalities. We talked about hypnotherapy, timeline therapy. What about limiting beliefs? We've kind of talked a bit about those.
So I alluded to my limiting beliefs, which predominantly for me come around money.
Yes.
And an example of that is, I grew up, we grew up very comfortable. I was very fortunate for the life that I lived, or that I live, and they, they taught me that you don't live outside of your means. Credit card debt is bad, was something that was constantly, not in that way. I love you guys. You guys did the best you could do, and I think I turned out all right.
You're pretty awesome.
So this is, Mom, Dad, thank you for everything. I wouldn't be where I am now without you. But that saying, and a lot of this is just parents wanting to, do right by their children.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to see their child rack up, thousands of dollars of credit card debt, get out of college, and their first job goes to paying off college on top of college loans if you have them. So debt was a huge thing for me. And so my limiting belief was, really working with my coaches to help me reframe the idea that not all debt is bad. There is a difference between good debt and bad debt. Swiping your credit card to go on a vacation that you can't really afford might not be the best kind of debt. But swiping a credit card, taking out a loan, borrowing money to hire a coach or coaches that are going to I changed my life. They are helping to facilitate that process. That's an investment in myself.
Yes.
And recognizing that, one, I've already spent that money 10 times over in therapy over the years. It was just, different, making weekly or monthly or whatever it was payments.
Yes.
But, another example Katie just said is saving your life with medical bills.
Yes.
That's another kind of good debt. Nobody wants to take on debt. We all wish that we just had an unlimited source of money to do with as you please, but
what would that teach us? Sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
See? You see the questions that she asks? Do that one later. But recognizing that, again, it's in the reframing. It's the way you see things. It's the way that you reposition that in your mind. So my debt is bad to myself. I'm like, no. I'm making an investment in myself to leave a legacy, to change others' lives. It's not just about me. I am investing in myself so that I can help change others' lives.
Exactly. And other good debt, especially as starting a business, is the money that we put into investing in our business to
Right.
start. So saving your life, yes. So Katie, yes. Okay, so that's another good debt. In starting a business, there's money putting into, say, doing a website, or you mentioned hiring coaches as part of that too. I have virtual assistants that are out there who are helping me build my business.
Designers, accountants. I mean, just all of because especially
Yeah.
if you're, what I've learned amongst many things is resource up.
Yes,
There are people that
definitely
you don't have
resource
to do
up.
it alone. And I want to spend my time doing what I'm good at. Could I sit there and figure out how to code all of my individual transactions? Yeah, I could figure it out.
But if it's not your
But
expertise,
it's not my area of expertise. I'm going to get frustrated, and that's not the best use of my time. So another debt is, recognizing that the money I'm putting into my business will
Yes.
come back to me.
Yes, I love that. So be bright. We're going to move us again. So she is brighter. I
Brighter.
love that, brighter, as we come into it. And so we've talked about a couple different modalities. We've talked about limiting beliefs. Also parts integration. So thinking about some parts for yourself. So what parts integration is there's a difference between a limiting belief, something that really is holding me back, as Wendy was talking about. If you are, and this is another parallel, if you're raised from the imprint period that debt is bad as a limiting belief, this is something she believed on an ongoing basis. But parts integration is where recognizing part of you believes this sometimes, part of you believes something different. And it takes up a lot of mental energy when you believe something sometimes, but not all the time. So part of neurolinguistics programming and the various different techniques is being more congruent with what you believe about yourself, your values, being congruent. Because once you're more congruent with where you're going, leaps and bounds.
Yes.
And especially with where Wendy is going, leaps and bounds, and all that she has done in was it 4 months ago you decided to make the leap?
I decided in June. I resigned in August.
Yeah. So, and here we are, for those who may be watching it on replay, we're towards the end of October right now. So once she was more congruent about what she wanted in her life going forward and had that energy releasing, clearing out that bowl of anything that was holding her back, she can take more action. So were there any parts that were in conflict that you were working through?
All of the parts were in conflict. And so I actually went through the parts integration process with Aaron. And another activity, I think this took 20 minutes. Now this was parts we did on specific things. Again, didn't have to share what those things were, but he recognized in my language where I was like, well, part of me thinks this and part of me thinks that. And, being able to sit there and really find that clarity of, why does part of me think this?
Yes.
Why does part of me think this? What am I afraid of? Because fear is a thing for me. What it was a thing for me, now I have the tools to do it. That's the other thing. You start talking to coaches all the time, and it's crazy though, because my language has changed.
It definitely has.
And you still fall into your old habits, but I'm aware of them now, and I find myself talking, and I'm like, no, I don't need to do that. I am going to, or I'm not going to try. Right, I'm not going to try to do this. I commit to, or I am. Even when I said, not Casey, I'll be on our call, I commit to, being in that place of integrity.
Yes.
But that's just that goes back again, community, surrounding yourself. That you live that. But with the parts integration and back to Aaron, was being able to identify what was the highest purpose.
Yes.
What is it that I want to achieve, that part of me is feeling this way and part of me is feeling that way. So what is that underlying thing? And then being able to use their techniques to bring those two parts together to get into that clarity and into that alignment, and haven't thought twice about it since.
Good. And again, it's congruency.
Yes.
Getting congruent.
Which I like to, again, I'm not going to get into specifics, but it kind of reminds me of, I think everybody's probably experienced a relationship where where my head is telling me one thing and my heart is telling me something else. And until you're able to truly either choose head or heart, whether you found, congruency or not, but it's just that constant conflict of my heart one thing, but once you're able to decide what that higher purpose is,
Yes.
then you can go forth with whatever decision needs to be made.
Yeah, I like that analogy. I love it. Head and heart, congruency. Love it. Okay, so that's an example of parts integration. We talked about limiting beliefs, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy. Anchoring is another technique used in personal breakthrough sessions.
So do you want to explain the concept of anchoring, or you want me to?
Just layman terms. I'll let you.
Okay.
Just,
So anchoring, think of the moment when I was at the event, and it was just my eyes, like when I saw the possibility of more. I was actually with Aaron at this event. He was the one that got me to go to this event. I was reluctant, but I went. And that's where I was introduced to the concept of anchoring. And he was like, find a spot. For me, it's just in between my thumb and forefinger. A lot of people, it's on their ear. A lot of people, they tap their knuckle, and it's whatever. He said, find a spot, and that's just where my hand naturally went. And so I sat there and I closed my eyes and I pinched the skin between my thumb and my forefinger. And I anchored that moment, the way that I felt in that moment. At other events, conversations, aha moments, the way that I felt after I delivered my resignation letter, just just the feeling of relief, all of the positive moments that are like those strong, life on fire, clarity moments, you anchor them, and I always anchor them in the same spot. Music, songs, everybody can probably relate to. You hear a song and it instantly brings you back to whatever that moment, place, person was. Energy. That's what anchoring does for me. So whenever I get into that place, that unresourceful state, or I'm just so stressed out, or I find myself in my old patterns focusing on the things I don't have control over, or focusing not on the silver line, being pessimistic, the awareness comes in. I'm able to recognize this is not the place I want to be.
Yes.
And I pinch myself there, which is not anchoring that feeling, it's firing my resource anchor at that point. And it does. It's like hearing that song where just that switch flips, switch flips, and you're able to get back into that positive place.
Yes.
And I think that's the coolest one, because that's something I can do for myself at any given time, and it's easy. And I could be in a meeting with someone, a client meeting, a prospect meeting, and the nerves start bubbling up, and all I have to do is under the table, my hands are in my lap, just squeeze that place. Nobody knows what I'm doing. I think a lot of public speakers do it too when they need to get back in state or getting their energy back. You might see, you just think that they're adjusting their mic or whatever. So, that is that's secret free tool that we just gave you there.
Yes, I love it. And I wanted her to describe it in layman terms too, as we're getting into it, because it's one thing about all these various different techniques, and I can start getting into talking about the technicalities of it. So anchoring, as we just talked about, is looking at any place on the body that the technique is bringing it back to anchor a specific emotion that you can fire at various different times. So whether it's motivation, whether it's energy, whether it's excitement. So taking it back, I mentioned at the beginning of the analogy of this bowl that we have, where we're cleaning out the bowl of things that don't serve you, and starting to not only keep what are things that are serving you, but also starting to put strategies in place that are going to help you along the way. And anchoring is one of those strategies. So if we don't start filling that bowl with some of the positive things that we want going forward, once there's been some clearing out, your unconscious mind starts to fill back up that bowl with some of those things that we don't want. So I like leaving my clients with strategies like anchoring. So when they find that they're in that fearful place where fear starts to bubble up back in and back again, you heard that from Wendy, is firing that anchor can help in the moment. Something subtle, you don't know, somebody else is not gonna know what you're doing. Like, hold on just a second, I gotta wait here. And it can take seconds.
Oh.
Like just split seconds.
Sometimes it's just the knowledge that my fingers are going toward my hand, you know?
Yeah, I love it.
And even after I released fear, it was an instant when I, was in a light trance, when I was like, oh my God, I can't explain the feeling, but you were like I had that glow, that brightness.
Yes.
No pun intended. And you were like, anchor it. So.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Yeah, and this is going off just a little bit, talking about that feeling, that shift, that is another powerful thing that comes out of doing a personal breakthrough session. And I've started to do it with my clients as well. So when I was going through being trained on this, they master prac level for neurolinguistics programming, they had us take pictures each day through the 16-day training that we had. Each pictures. And when I look back at those pictures of the very first day versus the end day, distinctly different. And I do that with my clients as well. So doing a personal breakthrough session, I tend to split it up in a day and a half, but I say it's around 6 to 8 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours in the beginning, just gathering some background information. And then I organize the techniques that are unique for that one client to then spend anywhere from 4 to 6 hours specifically with that client, focusing on the issue. So I'm not just throwing the techniques in there just to say, hey, let's do it. I actually do personalize those. So when doing those techniques, I'm making sure at the end that there are strategies and things that are put in place for them, that are specific to them on some of that. So I don't always use all these various different techniques, but anchoring is a very powerful one to install the strategies, the positive things, so they're filling up that bowl at the end. Okay. And there is one other, swish patterns. If there's, and so another positive thing, just briefly setting that up, if there's something that they're major to minor, things that are holding you back. Sometimes it's being used for overcoming addictions, or if you have a sweet tooth like I do. I won't go into all of it. I'll have you talk about it, but thinking about things in which, again, there's various different techniques to overcome the specific things that that client wants to work on. So how was swish patterns used for you?
So for me, swish patterns, I'll give you the exact example, was single mom. I went through, Erin walked me through swish patterns when I had made the decision that I was ready to leave my corporate job, had not told my corporate job yet, and was trying to do all of the legwork that needed to go into that would give me that confidence and comfortability to actually leave or resign. And my problem was that I'd be at work all day at my corporate job. I'd come home, cook dinner, spend time with my son, do homework, put him to bed, and we're laying there reading or whatever it is before he goes to bed, and I leave his room and I'm like, I'd finally stopped. I can go, but once you stop, it's hard to get back in that momentum. And so it was, so many nights I was like, I just wasted that night, because I'd put him to bed and then I'd go to bed, or I'd just go read a book instead of going to my office and working, my home office and working. And so he walked me through swish patterns, where basically I was able to, see that moment. And you're going to have to remind me of exactly what the pattern is. All I know is that whatever he did, it worked.
It's replacing one over another.
Right. So what does it look like when I leave his room? What is that feeling? Is it light? Is it dark?
Yes.
Is it close? Is it far away? And what does it look like when you leave his room and go straight to your office?
Yes.
Same exact thing. And then using the swish pattern technique and audible, whatever. They're like magicians. I don't understand. It's,
mind hacks.
yes, mind hacks. There it goes.
Or mental forensics was another term.
Ooh, that sounds fancy.
Yeah.
I like it. But using that now, when I walk out of his room, again, it creates an awareness. But I've also kind of just, no, you're not going to your room. Yes, you're tired. Yes, going to bed might be the easy thing. It might be what you want to do. But what's the bigger purpose? Why are you going to overcome that? Katie wants to know where Panda is.
Where's the dog? She's behind the camera.
But being able to recognize what's the higher purpose,
yes,
and bring myself back to that place, but then having that audible combined with the visual of, it looks like this when you do this, it looks like this when you do this. This is going to get you where you want to be. This is just doing the easy thing.
Yeah. So being aware of what your patterns are, and we talked about mental or mind forensics. It's aware of, what are your patterns, what's working for you, not working for you. And some of the techniques get into associating and dissociating. So being clear about bringing more awareness to you about the positive things that you want to focus on, and detaching or moving away from those things that are not helping you, those patterns that are not helping you. So raising awareness, pulling to you those positive behaviors, and pushing away some of the negative.
Right.
That might be the easiest way to describe that.
Much less wordy way to say it.
I know, but I like, bringing into light what are the details.
Right,
I
right.
love that. I love it. So those are various different techniques that we've talked about in regards to neurolinguistics programming, which gets into timeline therapy, hypnotherapy. We've talked about limiting beliefs, parts, anchoring, and even swish patterns associated with this. So with everything that we've had, so for those who have just joined on briefly, Stephanie, good to see you here. Taking the idea about the differences between coaching and therapy, as well as personal breakthrough sessions. And in this case for WENDI, is really moving from the corporate world into starting her amazing event planning as an entrepreneur. WENDI, think about with all this, what are some of the basic differences, maybe even summarizing it, or for those who are just trying to figure out if, maybe I'm interested in this, but I'm not quite sure whether I want to do a coaching or personal breakthrough session. What would you say to those people?
My first thing is you have a 20-minute opportunity to talk to a coach for free. I mean, any good coach is going to hold that space for you for 20 minutes because, like Karen said at the beginning, you have to see if there's rapport, if it's even a good, whether you've definitively decided yes you want it or no you don't. There has to be that rapport. But even just to get on the phone, see how you feel.
Yeah.
I guarantee that even in 20 minutes you'll receive value. Even if you decide that coaching isn't the path that you're looking for, you're still going to receive value from that. So that would be 100% the first thing. And then, if you are at the place, for me, I don't like waiting. I get impatient, and coaching it expedites whatever it is. You don't know what you don't know. The things that came up during our timeline therapy, like there were things that I was holding on to, emotions, instances in my life that I didn't even know were still there. I mean, things that happened when I was younger that I didn't even know that those were still affecting me.
Yeah.
But they were filling up my bowl with negative things versus positive things. So that's another thing I think is just the, finding out what you don't even realize from your past is affecting you. I mean, I can't encourage you enough just to get on the phone call. You have 20 minutes, and I will say that, the only thing you have to lose is time, but I'm not even going to say that because you'll get value in those 20 minutes.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and even to a point as I'm hearing you, WENDI, is thinking about you didn't know there were some things that were holding you back. So even with this whole idea, like saying you're like, oh, I think I need to see a therapist because I think there may be some things that are holding me back. I mean, in many cases, I get calls where people are like, no, the stigma of going to a therapist or not knowing the things that are holding them back. All they want to know is here's where I am right now and here's where I want to go.
Right.
Great. How are we going to fill the gap? And my best friend's a therapist, so please hear this, that I am not putting down therapists in any way. There are various different expertise and differences between therapy, life coaching, and even personal breakthrough session. So part of today's interview, as well as the Facebook Live I did last week on the differences between coaching and therapy, is to help educate you and inform you for you or a loved one. And to WENDI's point, thank you, I'll pay you later, is having that 20-minute call. And with any good coach, whether it's me or others, therapists, whoever it is just having that first introductory talk. Because I will say, having a rapport, like if I have people who are calling me and for whatever reason, I don't think it's a good fit, as I will do my best. I will be honest. I'm here to help people. I'm not here to take money. I'm here to help people. That is my goal, to help people live a life of their dreams. Help people live a life of their dreams. And if for any reason it's not a good fit, then finding another resource that's out there to be able to help them live that life of their dreams.
And I'll add just one thing that you said was, people wanting to, how do I get here? You might not even know that. I didn't know that.
Yes.
All I knew was that something was missing, and that's where coaching came in for me, was to help me figure it out. So, some people, they're very fortunate and they know this is where I am, I'm not happy, or this is what I want to achieve, but then there's some people that they're just, and I felt guilty. Like a lot of people probably do feel guilty. Like I have a good life.
Do we
Why
have to
am
do
I so
timeline
unhappy?
to
Maybe.
release
No,
that
I think
later?
we released. I think
Okay.
we did. I felt guilty.
Good.
Yeah.
Past tense.
But because
Yeah.
there are other people that are less fortunate,
Right.
and I didn't know what was missing. So that is another thing, just that comes back to that resource. You don't have to be able to call and say, I need help letting go of this, or this is stopping me in my tracks, or I know that this is something that I need to release. I want to live a better life, and I'm not sure how. Can we figure that out together?
Yes.
That's for me.
Who are you? What do you want in your life? And where are you going? And let's get you there. Barbara, good to see you on. You've been part of this process too.
Yes.
And for Barbara too, you've also going into the entrepreneur world. So I'm going to leave it with this. Back to Wendy, is there a coaching, personal breakthrough session? We can leave that aside unless you want to tie it in. What are some tips you would give those people who are considering becoming an entrepreneur?
That's easy. That is easy. Well, easier said than done, but I did it, so I'm going to say it. Face your fear. Face your fear. Use your fear. Channel it. Turn your fear. Use it as passion. Use it as courage. Everything, Georgia Dare has a quote that said, everything you've ever wanted stands on the other side of fear, which is so true. And you don't know what you're fully capable of until you push yourself out of your comfort zone. And that's where the growing really starts, is getting yourself outside. Because if you haven't achieved what you want, whatever you've currently been doing, or it's got you that far, you need to introduce change. And so basically, face your fear, choose courage over fear, and do it now. Like, don't wait. Tomorrow's not a guarantee. Just do it. And Barbara, I see you. Yes, Barbara did the same thing as I did. We have a lot of symmetry there, where she just left her corporate job, same thing, and that is.
Exactly.
And once you do it, here's the other thing. Once you do make that leap, or take the step, or face your fear, you might not know how, but once you do it, the house starts to show up. Everything else starts to fall into place. Because I think a lot of people limit themselves because, I don't know what that would look like, or how to do that, or how to do that. Just do the big thing, and the details work themselves out.
They do. I love it. So we're going to leave it on that, because I think that is invest in yourself. Thank you, Barbara. I love it. We're going to leave it at that. So with this today, I hope that you have not only heard about the journey, the amazing journey that Wendy has gone through from leaving six-figure corporate job, which she actually was part of the founding member for that organization. So it wasn't just a six-figure, it wasn't just leaving after 11 years, but really this was a family that she was stepping away from this corporate to really step out. Thank you, Katie. Wish you ladies all the best. Miss you too. To really step into her power, to live her passion, to live her best life. And today, hopefully you heard and understand how coaching and personal breakthrough sessions have been part of that process to help support her. And just 4 months from making her public declaration to leaving her corporate job 2 months ago, to turning her company into her first client, and we're talking to her now just 2 months after she made that big transition. Be bright, keep an eye out for it. If you, Barbara, I know you're one of those, are looking for event planners to help you with your business, especially if you're looking at the specific type of clients that you're looking for, which are
my target clients are life coaches, authors, visionaries, thought leaders, people who it is their passion and their purpose to impact others, and encourage them to live the life of their dreams. So anybody who is making positive impact in their clients' lives is my target. My target market.
Excellent. I love it. So below we will end up posting Wendy's link for information. So if you want to find out more about her event planning, to hire her and what she does, so you'll see the link below. If you found this valuable, please do a hashtag replay if you're watching this at a later time. We want to hear from you, post comments and things. Share this with somebody that you think might be of value. This might be of value, especially if they're considering becoming an entrepreneur, or you think they have the potential of doing it. They've mentioned something. Just send this to them. This might be the one thing that just gets them going.
And they can reach out to me directly to talk firsthand about the fear and the techniques. I'm happy to talk to anybody because, you know, there was a lot of people that offered that to me before I made that. And sometimes you just need real people that have been there and done it before.
Yeah, build that community. I think we started with it,
Yep.
is build that community. So thank you. Oh, Jake,
Hey,
you just
Jake.
jumped on. Hey, you've been part of the community as well. So watch this on replay. Here, I'm Dr. Karen Kramer, International Success Advocate for teenagers through adults, helping them live their dream. So great to have WENDI Freeman here with us with Be Bright Events. Check her out and see about her journey for you. Don't delay. Your future starts today, so you better make it a great one.